So Grant, tell me, what do you typically see in marketing teams, and what would a good marketing team look like? Tell me a bit more about who you expect to be in there.
So as you'd expect, there's no one size fits all. In an absolute ideal world, if money wasn't an option, you can afford to employ, you'd have someone that really, really understands marketing strategy. And that tends to be a very senior person, and that tends to be quite a big salary. So for a lot of SMEs, that's not an option. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in an ideal team, you'd have somebody that's a real strategic leader that really understands market positioning and brand strategy, because that's really where the big money's made and the big decisions are made. If your strategy's wrong, everything else is tactical. And tactical execution works well against a good strategy, but it obviously doesn't work at all without a good strategy. And that's when marketing generally goes wrong in SMEs, because they can't afford that strategic person on 120 grand a year or whatever. And therefore you're now working at tactical level, which only working at tactical doesn't particularly work. Then I always think you need someone that understands offline and brand in an ideal world again, because that world is quite a specific world, and understanding how to sweat brand and grow equity against the brand strategy and use those channels is very important. And then these days you need someone that understands digital and data. And notwithstanding, you need someone that can write content, but that can come from anywhere. You can freelance that, or you might have someone within the team that's particularly good at writing and putting things together, and that creative strands. But that's those kind of the disciplines that you need. But what I would say is, for companies that can't afford that 120 grand a year strategic person, you really need to think about bringing in somebody to do strategy for you that you trust, whether it's a company or a consultant or whatever. And then you can have slightly more junior people doing the implementation. But what a lot of people do, well-meaning, is they'll bring in, someone third or fourth jobber. So they got marketing manager, they got a bit of a CV, and they've got a bit of experience, and they'll be responsible for running everything. And the fact is, they might be have a degree of experience around technical execution, but they're not strategic, because they're not that level. That's senior, that's board level type stuff. So you might have a very good sort of mid-tier marketer, but they don't. And then it's where it didn't work out. It didn't work out because the companies they used to work for all had the strategic person at the beginning, at the top, and they were executing on the strategy. You've now brought them in. They've got a reasonable CV. They've worked for some decent brands. But the problem is strategy is just a little bit beyond. It means they can't do any. But at that high level, they can't do it. So I say to people today, get part-timers. Because if you need a content writer, get someone 20 hours a week doing content. Get someone 20 hours a week that understands digital. Get 20 hours a week that understands brand and the analog world or whatever. But the great thing about, you might still need to bring in the strategic person. The great thing about having, and by the way, it's not flexi time. Tell them they've all got to work 9 till 1 Monday to Friday, or 1 till 5 Monday to Friday. Whatever it is that works for your business and works for them. But the point is, then you've got a team. So rather than have one full-time person or two full-time people, you've got 2 part-time or even 4 part-time people. But now you've got a proper team. You've got a bit of strength and depth on skill sets, because one person won't have it all, which means if you employ one full-time person, you're absolutely compromising because nobody has it all. But the second thing is, if you've got 2 or 3 part-timers, they retain each other, because actually being the only person in the entire marketing department in a building is quite lonely, and nobody quite understands what you're doing. You sit in the desk in the corner, you say, "Where's marketing?" They're over there. It's not very nice. Whereas if you've got a colleague, and maybe even a couple of colleagues, you'll find that they stay, because there's a little bit of a team. There's a bit of camaraderie, which keeps people in businesses. But it also means when somebody does leave, and inevitably they will, because no one stays forever, you've still got another 2 left. Which means you've got some continuity. When the next person comes on, there's a bit of onboarding. Because what happens often is, marketing person hands in the notice. They do their 30 days. You haven't found anybody in between. They've left. The new marketing person comes in starting from scratch. And no one else knows what marketing is. So that, and then companies wonder why everything's a disaster. Well, of course it's a disaster.
What about using agencies, outsourced agencies and things? What are your thoughts on that? Because a lot of businesses do that. That's how they get that depth. Is just say, well, I'll outsource it all to an agency. What are your thoughts?
So as a person that ran an agency, I would say you can't outsource. You shouldn't outsource your brand,
right?
And I'm not sure you should outsource your media. To anybody, because that's a lot of your brand's tied up in that as well.
Right.
I think you need someone running that from within.
Yeah.
But what I always say is then agencies are brilliant for what I call special teams. Okay. So you need a website built.
Yeah.
You're not going to build it yourself. Exactly. You're going to outsource it. You need some videos done.
Yeah.
Go and outsource it to a video production company. You need a very specialist copy written for something, or you're looking to someone to write some content for you. You might be able to employ a freelance journalist or someone that's a ChatGPT or a wordsmith. Yeah. So I think it's very important to have an internal resource, but for sure, outsourcing definitely has a place.
Okay, cool.